Going through narcissistic abuse will make you cautious. It will make you wary. And the trick is to become cautious but not paranoid, and sometimes that is hard to do. So, 25 traits that draw the vampires to you. Number 1 would be being very naive, being innocent, being trusting. I went to Purdue University my junior and senior years of undergraduate, and I lived in a house with a 75, 80-year-old woman. I don't know how old she was. Her name was Mrs. Van Pelt, and all of her other boarders were from China. And so when she got somebody who understood English real well, who could take her garbage out on the right days, she sort of would befriend them, and I would play Scrabble and eat apple something cake and drink constant comment tea. And so as I hung out as a 20-year-old with Mrs. Van Pelt playing Scrabble, she would look at me and say, "Mark, you are a babe in the woods. You are an innocent." And she certainly was right about that. She had some experience and some wisdom, and she saw a sucker when she had him in her presence. So going through this will cure you of some of your innocence and some of your over-trusting. All the noise you're hearing in the background is Mr. Pauly foofing around, my beagle. The second thing that makes a man so attractive to these scary women is having financial resources. I had shared before that it never crossed my mind that I could be somebody's sugar daddy because I'm not a millionaire. But I was a millionaire to this woman who has her roots in the poverty of the hills of Arkansas. And I'd ask her as I brought her to a nice restaurant, I'd say, have you been here before? And she'd say, well, does it have a drive-up window? If it doesn't, I hadn't been here before. So I didn't realize that I was a mark. Mark was a very easy mark. The third quality is when a man has power and influence. That tends to attract the bee to the pollen. Number 4 is when you've experienced intense trauma in your childhood, because instinctively you are being drawn to this predator in order to heal yourself, in order to reenact the wounding and the trauma of your childhood. So I didn't know that I was headed for a severe beating, one that would almost destroy me and kill me. I had no clue. I just thought she was the nice, pretty lady who wanted to have sex all the time, who told me she loved me. And it did cause me to reenact trauma that went back to infancy, where I was severely abandoned, and I would scream bloody murder and turn purple, I'm told. The fifth quality is being oblivious. And if somebody would ask me, other than selecting this woman and selecting her basically every day for 6.5 years. What was my culpability? And I was just so oblivious. I was looking toward the future. I was looking to build my practice and write books and help people. And as a man, sometimes you get so focused on your goals, you don't know what's going on around you. And all the women watching this are like, yeah, that's my guy. Number 6, having low self-esteem. I've been embarrassed and shocked by some of the feedback I've gotten on my videos, and that is, I'm going to turn pink and red talking about this, but I've had quite a few women tell me that I was attractive, and I didn't know that. And when you're wounded in your childhood and you're not treated special, and then you go through such a psychological drubbing and beating that I went through, plus you're 56 years old, you sure don't feel very attractive. So low self-esteem in the being attractive department. Number 7, being a caretaker. Your heart goes out to the damsel in distress. Number 8, thing that sets you up to be a beacon of desirability to female narcissistic abusers is being way too forgiving. God help me. I was ready to not only forgive this woman but marry her, even after I found out about all these horrible, wicked, treacherous, disgusting things she did. And that's just the wounded little boy wanting his mommy. So number 9, men, a trait is being overly generous. And you know what? I got to tell you, it never dawned on me to look at this woman's, have her show me her pay stub. She would tell me that she was getting all kinds of overtime, but I never saw her pay stubs, and I really honestly didn't really have her pay any bills. I don't know what she did with her money. I was overly generous, and I wasn't wise, and I'm embarrassed to say it. I feel some shame about that. Number 10, men, is just because you have integrity and just because you have honesty, don't go projecting that on every woman you meet. Find out who they really are. Get to know them slowly. Study their character and find out if they are who they say they are. Number 11, another thing that makes you vulnerable, frankly, is having high moral values that will attract somebody who's equally deviant, and it encourages the innocence and the naive way of looking at things. Number 12, being an empath. I care about you folks, and I hear these stories both on the comment section of these videos, and also I get emails, and also I work with people on Skype, and I want to adopt half of you, because they're so broken, and the stories are so sad. And I've also had a lot of people want to adopt me because my story is so sad and I'm so broken. But that's the empath in us that just wants to nurture people. Number 13 is similar, and that's you love way too much, way too deeply. And my narcissistic abuser would say that I didn't love her that well because I was oblivious. But the truth is, in terms of my neediness, I adored her. I adored who she presented, and I would have done anything for her. And I was trying to actually build a future for us. But then when I found out who she was, for months, I was so shocked I couldn't let the reality of who she really was in. And the shock made me reactive, and it lit me on fire, and I acted out. Number 14, these women are attracted to dreamers, to visionaries, men who are casters of goals and visions, who focus too much on the future and don't focus enough on guarding the here and now. Number 15 is being needy and lonely. Toward the end, this woman mocked me, and she said, "Every time you kick me out of your house, I'm not calling you." Of course, she wasn't calling me. She had this other guy, and God knows how many men she was drawing narcissistic supply from. And she would mock me, and she'd say, I would call her, "I need you. I miss you." And that may sound mean, but it probably wasn't too far from what I sounded like. Because the needy, wounded little boy at my core did miss her. And I did call her, and I did draw her back in to offer me more abuse and mistreatment. Number 16 is we men have abandonment issues. Hey, if you haven't learned about abandonment issues, I really want to recommend 2 books. One is a book that I wrote, and you can get on the website for just $3 and download it. And it's called Managing Abandonment Issues Through Recovery. And it's all about the crazy dance, the reactivity, the overreactions that happen when people have abandonment issues, whether it's you or your partner. And then the other book on abandonment is If You've Been Completely Abandoned, and that, of course, is the classic book on abandonment by Susan Anderson, The Journey from Abandonment to Healing, which has helped me a lot. Number 17, these women, what they do is the trait that a man has is if he's easily lulled to sleep and dulled into oblivion by lots of good sex. And I don't know too many men who don't fit that description. I would share with my buddies that I wouldn't bring it up, but some of my buddies would ask me what was going on in my life, and they found out how often I was having sex, and some of the sex I was having, they were very jealous of me. They were like, "You get that? How often?" And so I was under the impression that things were good, that there was love in her heart, but that was just her way of dulling me into lostness and just complete unawareness of the truth of who she really was and the truth of who I really was. Number 18, we men who get hurt in this way, we were abused and or abandoned as a child, as I said, and we're looking to recreate and reenact our relation. It doesn't have to be your mommy issues. It could be your daddy issues, or it could be a combination. I was also severely abandoned by my father, not just my mother. Number 19, this goes along with the obliviousness, and that is men who don't want to be engulfed. They have a fear of engulfment. In other words, they didn't pick a woman to be too close. They picked a woman who'd give them a lot of space. And I was gone at beaches a lot the last 6.5 years trying to get away from her so that I could go write books. And there was something just so delicious about being away and being at a resort and being at the beach and not being intruded upon by her expectations. And I didn't realize that, you know, she was inviting this man into my house on weeks that I wasn't there. Where are we at? Number 20. It's guys who can be made to feel powerless. And I would say I always considered myself a very fierce, very strong, very courageous man. But when you're shocked this much and you have this much complex PTSD going on in your body and in your psyche, and when the narcissist has enlisted the help of a whole army of flying monkeys, you probably will break and be that wounded little kid, that wounded little boy who feels pretty darn powerless. Number 21, I think this doesn't necessarily apply to all men who attract these scary, hurtful women. But as a therapist, I think that there was some denial in this woman's part where I think she was hoping that I could somehow heal her. And we sure did a lot of therapy, and she read books on therapy. She did group therapy. She did individual therapy. And I think she was, part of her was looking to be healed, but the biggest part of her knew who she was, and she was looking for a nice house and somebody to pay the bills. Number 22, ironically, if you have a lot of expertise about narcissism, about abandonment issues, about relationships, ironically, there's some research that indicates it actually makes you more vulnerable. Anytime you have knowledge about something and it makes you arrogant and smug and you feel like, hey, it ain't going to happen to me because I'm the expert, that can open up some trouble. And one of the things I've learned is going through this experience will humble you, and it will give you a heart that's open to feedback and to all the data that's coming, towards you. Number 23 is somebody who's not an authoritarian. And many times we strong, driven, successful men seem authoritarian, but looks can be deceiving, because when the fangs come out and the verbal abuse starts to occur, you can shrink right down to your wounded little boy and actually be bullied by somebody who looks like the codependent, and you look like Superman, but that ain't the way it is. It's the other way around. She's super scary vampire, cut your gizzard out and, eat your heart, and you're a scared little boy shivering down in the unfinished basement just trying to, stay away from the scary lady. Number 24 is many times we men who get taken and get abused are sort of goody-goodies, These are Serena's words, sort of maybe a little bit not very worldly wise, maybe a little bit nerdy. And then the last trait of a man who becomes this beacon of desirability, and my friends, you don't want to be desirable in this way, to scary, ruthless, hurtful, scary female narcissistic abusers, is it's men who have not built a hedge of protection around themselves with insightful friends, family members, and therapists. My nephew, the first time he met this woman back in October of 2008, which is a month, 6 weeks after I met her, and right about the time she started her ongoing, horrific sexual acting out. He knew who she was the first time he met her, because she was mean as a snake that day. She was moving into my place, and she didn't want to because she had a new boyfriend already a month after, making me her new boyfriend. And I wish he would have been more vocal, and he was vocal during the process of me trying to sort this out just before she went to the treatment center. Also, I have another friend who saw it. He knew who she was, but he didn't really, he hinted. So listen, if you notice a friend, a family member, a client who has one of these blood-sucking vampires sucking on their neck and sucking on their finances and about ready to destroy them into just horrific, complex PTSD symptoms, do an intervention. Go grab them with two of your buddies and sit them in a room and just, hit them with reality. At least you'll be able to walk away saying, we warned the man. I love the scene in 4 Weddings and a Funeral where the brother who does the sign language, the minister says, "Does anybody object?" And he says, "Yeah, I object. I suspect the groom loves somebody else." To which the bride punched him in the face, and that was the end of that wedding. But his brother saved him. His brother spoke up and put a hedge of protection because he was marrying the wrong woman for the wrong reasons. So fellas, these are 25 traits, and if you've got a lot of them, be careful, because women will come after you and they will have agendas, and you will be fresh meat. And if you've been through it once, you certainly don't want to go through it again. Listen, if you haven't joined our YouTube channel, please join Family Tree Counseling on YouTube. We got 400 and something videos now. We're sneaking up on 1 million views. Also, visit our website, familytreecounseling.com, and I've got 5 books on there that can really help your recovery. I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope it causes you to be wise, to recognize the truth about who people are, even if they're sexy, even if they're young, even if they're pretty, especially so. Be careful, men. Thank you for watching, and God bless.